their enterprises. Why the emphasis of women entrepreneurs?
Empowering women, we are able to empower the nation because they hold the house together.
So as far as accessing finance, we know it's important for them to get help to grow their businesses.
It's given equal opportunity to women. We've been ignoring them for quite a long time.
The program is tagged NTA Yellowpreneurship Business Page. And it is a conjunction, that is a partnership between MTN Foundation and the Nations Bank of Industry. And depending on the pitch of these women entrepreneurs, numbering about 200, the women are to get up to 2 million naira as loan. That is if their business or businesses are picked. In Lagos, Larry Bilayi, NTA News.
Do not forget to follow this news broadcast live on our website at nta.ng/live and on our other social media handles displayed on the screen for updates. The network news will continue after this break. To stay.
One of Africa's leading edtech companies announces the launch of its academic challenge U-Lesson National Academic Tournament UNAT, tagged Rise to the Challenge, where winners will go home with a total cash prize of 5 million naira. UNAT promises an exciting and engaging platform for students to showcase their academic prowess while also rewarding their hard work and dedication. First place, 3 million naira and a school award. Second place, 1 million naira and a school award. Third place, 500,000 naira and a school award, plus other amazing consolation prizes for runners-up. This tournament will feature a wide range of topics in subjects, including mathematics, English, chemistry, physics, and biology. Science students from secondary schools all over Nigeria will be eligible to participate and compete. For more information about the U-Lesson National Academic Tournament UNAT or to register for the competition, please visit www.ulesson.com/challenge. Registration ends on the 10th of March 2023. Registration for UNAT is completely free. U-Lesson. Love learning.
Are you a dealer in cars, jewelry, precious metals and stones and luxury goods? Are you into real estate, or are you an estate agent, surveyor, valuer, developer or broker? Are you into the hospitality industry, lottery business, or are you a mortgage broker, tax consultant or an accountant? The market, pools betting and consulting or construction company.
If you have,
go and obtain your certification from the Special Control Unit Against Money Laundering, SCUMOL, and be free to do your business within the ambits of the law. SCUMOL has the responsibility to monitor, supervise, and regulate the activities of designated non-financial business and professions, DNFBPs, across the country. Please note that the SCUMOL certificate is not a guarantee of legitimacy of any business. To register, visit www.scumol.org. For collection of certificate, visit any EFCC office nearest to you. Remember, registration is free.
SCUMOL, securing Nigeria's business environment. This message is from Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC.
Good morning.
Good morning. Why is your sun shining like this?
Can't you see that Harmattan season is here? We need to protect our children from this dry weather.
What about the invisible germs?
Invisible germs?
During Harmattan, it's not enough to only protect your skin. You also need protection from these invisible germs. To protect our families, we use Dettol.
In me, it depends you, it depends us, it depends everybody. Yes. But war, bloodshed, scatter, come out, it no go solve them. This one they talk, and make them go if they want go. This one they talk, we go. Make we scatter, make we burn, make we do everything. When you scatter finish, where you go? Okay, you go take private jet, carry your family go. But make I ask you, what about your uncle, mama, auntie, brother, sister? What about them? Remember, who throws stone for market? You know, until we go come out from your mouth, you know, go fit gather us together as one people. Shut up with please. War no get friend. You know no language, you know anything. So if our get too much, make we sit down at the table of dialogue. Nigeria na my own, Nigeria na your own, Nigeria na our own. Make we come together, keep them.
Cavity protection.
Why are we changing our toothpaste?
Because with Colgate Maximum Cavity Protection, I can be sure your teeth are cavity free.
When you brush daily with Colgate Maximum Cavity Protection, its expert formula locks natural calcium in our teeth and helps protect them from chosen toothpaste.
Colgate locks calcium in,
keeps cavities out.
to join us on this mission?
Yes, but how?
Just one question. How do you keep your toilet clean?
I use regular detergent and bleach for washing and removing yellow stains. I have been using it for years.
Oh, madam, the regular detergents and bleach are used for washing clothes. To disinfect your toilet, germs and stains remover. Our big sticker formula settles on stains and gives 10 times better cleaning.
Wow! Now I'm convinced, Helen Paul.
Really?
Yeah.
The next house is yours.
Mommy, it is time for us to leave this place.
One of your earrings is missing.
No one will find it.
I'm not willing to take that chance.
Have a big plan, Mommy.
What do you want?
I want a senior position at Dubai. Of this envelope and check every single thing. It's done. No one will ever find out the truth.
Thanks for staying with us. And here's a reminder that NTA will be streaming live on its social media platforms the special broadcast of the election tagged Verdict 2023. Don't miss anything as the largest TV network brings to you live happenings in all than 109 senatorial districts across the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. Now, out of 27,782 candidates who sat for the November-December 2022 National Business Certificate and National Technical Certificate examinations across the country, 21,103 candidates representing 75.96% obtained 5 credits and above, including English and Mathematics. Registrar of and Chief Executive of NAPTEP, Professor Ifoma Isiogu Abanihe, made this known while announcing the release of the results this Thursday in Benin. Agatha Egwaojo reports.
31,656 candidates comprising 12,652 females and 19,004 males registered for the examination in 1,678 centers across the country. For both ordinary and advanced levels, the candidates enrolled for a total of 90 trades and subjects.
Out of 24,519 candidates that sat for various trades and crafts level, at the crafts level, 15,377 candidates, representing 62.71%, were certified as craftsmen. This represents an improvement over 2021 performance, where 57.87% were certified as craftsmen.
Of credit passes obtained for purpose of academic progression,
out of 27,782 candidates that sat for the NBC NTC examinations, 21,103 obtained 5 credits and above, including English and Mathematics. These performances are slightly better than those of the 2021 November-December results.
The board last year recorded a drop in examination malpractice from 244 in 2021 to 123 in 2022. It is, however, worried about persistent challenges hampering development of TVET in Nigeria, particularly death of qualified technical teachers, many of whom have retired without replacement. In Benin, Agatha Egwaojo, NTA News.
Now, a bit on travel advisory. The federal government has directed the full implementation of a new visa reciprocity policy for citizens of the United States of America with effect from 1st of March 2023. In a statement by the Minister of Interior, Ralph Aregbeshola, this is sequel to approval for the implementation of the new bilateral consular policy agreements between Nigeria and the United States of America. The agreements, amongst others, include the reciprocity of 5-year tourist visa, validity for American citizens pursuant to Section 30 of the Immigration Act 2015, an extension of visa validity to 3 years for diplomats and government officials. The United States of America will also reciprocate by implementing a similar policy for Nigerians wishing to travel on tourist visas to the United States and for diplomats and officials visiting the country. It's time to talk business, and Musa will be our guide.
Thank you. And now let's begin with energy. Oil prices edged higher in volatile trade on Friday, bolstered by the prospect of lower Russian exports, but pressured by rising inventories in the United States and concerns over global economic activity. CNBC reports that Brent crude futures were at last up 88 cents or 1.07% at $83.09 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude futures gained 83 cents or 1.1% at $76.22. Earlier, both fell by more than $1 a barrel. At the equities, the all-share index at the close of business Friday rose to 54,949.21 points, and investors traded 119 million volume of stocks in 2,820 deals, valued at 2.501 billion naira. Equity capitalization closed out the day at 29.933 trillion naira. Guarantee Trust Holding Company, Transcorp, and Access Holding PLC were the most traded stocks. Let's quick look at business news. The news continues after the break.
When life gets busy, you can always rely on GoTV to make things a little easier. Upgrade to the next package and we'll boost you to a higher package for free. GoTV. Love it.
Good morning.
Good morning. Why is your sun shining like this?
Can't you see that Harmattan season is here? We need to protect our children from this dry weather.
What about the invisible germs?
Invisible germs?
During Harmattan, it's not enough to only protect your skin. You also need protection from these invisible germs. To protect our families, we use Dettol.
Men do not like overconfident women.
Don't touch me without my permission.
I'm a playful guy and I do get carried away sometimes.
You are selfish, manipulative, and you are a narcissist.
After all I've done for you.
What have you done for me?
Look, she called me barren.
You know my mom doesn't know any better, right?
You say that now, but then when you see your mother, you start to act like you're deaf and dumb.
You were supposed to be more careful. I've been. Clearly not enough.
President Muhammadu Buhari has paid tribute to the late Senator Abba Ali, his friend and decades-long associate, describing his death as painful to him and a great loss to the nation. This was when members of the bereaved family of the deceased visited him at his Daura residence to share the common loss of a man who diligently served Nigeria. The family members were led on the visit by Director General of the National Intelligence Agency, Ambassador Ahmed Rufai Abubakar. Until his demise, Senator Abba Ali was Chairman, National Governing Council of the African Peer Review Mechanism. President Buhari passionately expressed grief over the loss of an irreplaceable friend whom he described as a warm personality as well as a faithful companion. Alhaji Usman Katsina, who spoke on behalf of the family, said they were all aware of the social and emotional bonds binding the president and their late father. The family thanked him for his support to the deceased following the tragic accident that took his life and afterwards. They prayed for peaceful elections in the country and a safe return home to the president after a successful completion of his second term. And that ends the network news. Thank you so much for your time. And now, our Verdict 2023 studio is up. Musbao Dan Wahab will take it from here. Musbao, are you super ready for us?
Almost set, and the election day is almost here. It's just less than 2 hours to the election day and a few hours more to the opening of the polling units. It's going to be the 7th general election since democratic rule returned to Nigeria since 1999. And of course, you know why we're here. This is where we give you the very best. And of course, anything you need to know about the general election. This is the Verdict 2023 studio of the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA. We're transmitting live from Abuja here. And our studio open since morning. And in case you're just joining us, this is where you get all you need to know about the general elections. I'm not alone in the studio. I have my guests. And of course, we will be taking you around the country to give you updates from various parts of the country. And let me quickly introduce my guests to you so we get going on the program. I am Musbao Dan Wahab, and on this set with me, I have Arms-Free Ajanaku, media and election expert from the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD. Good to have you.
Yeah, my pleasure to be here.
All right. I also have a very regular face on NTA too. He's Ezenwa Nwogo, chairman, partner for electoral reforms and election observer. Thanks for joining us, Chief.
Thank you.
Anyway, you're not wearing your regalia tonight. It seems so you are in another mood for the election, I guess.
In a few hours, I'll don that regalia.
All right. It's been some 24 years of democratic growth since democracy returned in 1999, and we're set Nigerians are anxious to get to the poll. The gladiators, talking about the candidates in the presidential race and of course National Assembly, have been trying to sell their markets, their ideas to the electorates. We have 93.4 million of them that are going to decide this election. Of course, not all of them were able to get via PVCs. You'll get to know more about that in the course of this program. But let me bring in Amsri. We've been talking to Nigerians, of course, taking them from one part of the country to the other with updates from our correspondents across the country. Now, let's compare notes. From your dashboard, talking about CDD, what has been your observation about the preparation of the electoral umpire, the Independent National Electoral Commission, I think?
All right, so from our pre-election statement, which we released only yesterday, CDD has kind of summarized this election in terms of its broad context, in talking about the 5 I's that, would determine broadly the voting pattern in this election. And the 5 I's are, first of all, the first I is the I of identity.
Right.
This election is one that, would play out, on the line of identity. And identity in this sense is the various contextual issues that have tended to define the narrative that even the political actors themselves, try to spin during the campaign trail. So identity in terms of ethnicity, identity in terms of religion, identity in terms of intergenerational identity, the youth, of the country. And if you look at the data, you can see that, there's a youth bulge in the, number of, registered voters, and also in the number of, those who have collected their PVC. So the youth are going to have a very big say in this election, and we are all raring to go in the next few hours to see that the Nigerian people come out to exercise their democratic right. The next I is the I of insecurity, because insecurity has been a major theme that has defined this election, and even right as we are getting into election day, even as of today, you had incidents all over the country.
Pockets of that.
And the other eye is the eye of information disorder. You know, the role social media is going to play in this election, which is why those of us at the Center for Democracy and Development have tried to ensure that, you know, Nigerians, you know, get to understand that, you know, social media has, you know, the role it plays as a double-edged sword. It can play the role of informing citizens, but it can also play the role of disinforming citizens. So citizens have to be aware of that role. And the final eye is the eye of inter- and intra-party squabbles. So we still see, even right up to today, the manifestations of those, you know, those infighting we're seeing within the political parties. So these 5 eyes for us at CDD are largely the issues that would, you know, define the polls.
The poll, right? I like the idea of your 5 eyes, and let's see how we're going to manage those eyes effectively and to deliver a very free, fair, and credible election that Nigerians have been craving for. Now, let's get to the board of the partners for electoral reforms and election observers. That's Ezenwa Nwogu. You've been following situations now. Can we get to see what you have on your radar of your organization? What have you been able to observe from what INEC has prepared for this election? Are you okay with their preparedness?
Well, Musba, I think I'm a member of the board of YAGA Africa, and YAGA Africa is deploying what we call watching the votes for this election. And so it is from that lens that we've been looking at the process. And as you know, election is not an event. Election is a series of events. And where we are now, INEC has been able to is getting to that point where you would say it's closing out on its election plan. You know, we started this process from the voter registration point, and authentic voter register is the bedrock. Indeed, it is the foundation for free, fair, credible elections. And that process has gotten to the point where voters, prospective voters, were even made to go check their names, find out whether their names were correctly spelled in the gamut of the voter registration process. And what is significant is that to ease voter access, we do know that INEC increased the voting units by about 56,000, more than 56,000 polling units. Out of that, as you know, there will not be election in about 240 of those, which is just about 7% of the total polling units. So in that area, we see that there is likely going to be a challenge if quite a lot of people do not, follow that migration. As insignificant as that 7% is, it has capacity to convolute the situation if it is not well managed. And that's for the voter registration and INEC's interest in expanding the democratic and election space to make it more convenient for voters. We've gone through the candidate selection program process, and the parties are already gearing to go. You'll be having the presidential election. 18 political parties are on the ballot. The National Assembly election will be holding, the State Assembly, 28 governorship elections. So we're through that. We've gone through the campaign period where the candidates have sold themselves, and as at this evening, campaigns have closed. So we're now at that point where the voters themselves will be showing up. The owners of the electoral process, I call them, will be showing up tomorrow from 8:30 in the morning to about 2 p.m. or from that time to when voting closes in their own area. So the different stakeholders in the election pyramid, tomorrow is the test for whether all of these things that we have, yes, whether we have, no, the test of popularity is for the candidates, but the different stakeholders and the EMB particularly will be, we'll be looking at them from the lens of their preparedness. We visited some of the local government areas in the FCT, about 5 of them today. We went to the 5 of them. We saw firsthand their level of preparedness. We saw batching of the voters, of the ballot papers, what they call the sensitive materials, the movement from different locations to the racks and indeed the super racks, and the challenges that they face on the ground and how they are overcoming those challenges. That's the EMB. The security agents in most of those places that we visited, we saw, for instance, in many places, we were told that they have more than they require, and we saw that. So the different stakeholders are out there tomorrow to deal with it. But we do know that in good times, logistics is one of INEC's biggest nightmare. How that plays out tomorrow will be of importance to all of us. We'll be watching out to see what all of the challenges, the cash issues, what it will mean in terms of what do you call it, INEC vendor relationship. The NURTW, the NATO folks, we want to see whether this MOU that was signed with including the maritime unions, we want to see whether they will keep to them or whether there will still be a breach. So all of these, for me, I think we are ready to go.
Right, raring to go. Indeed, Nigerians are ready and waiting to go to the polls to decide those who will be leading them in the next 4 years. And thank you very much, Izinwa Nwogo. We're still going to talk more about those areas you touched. But for now, let's quickly get to feel what is going on in town. And we have one of our correspondents, Ifoma Ojinta of the UN Situation Room. Ifoma, good to see you. Can you let us have an idea of what you have on ground there?
Thank you very much, Musbab. I have to make a correction there. I'm not at the UN Situation Room. I'm actually at the Connected Development Situation Room.
All right.
I was at the UN Situation Room earlier, but they had to close because it's going to be a long day tomorrow, and they have to get up very early, you know, to observe the elections. We all know that INEC, you know, accredited over 140 observer groups, foreign and domestic, and they are here to, you know, observe and assess the pre-election, you know, the polling day, and of course post-elections. They are on ground. Some of them from, you know, around other parts of the world, you know, came in, some of them over a week now, but they are all strategic. Mr. Emmanuel Njoku, good evening. It's been a long wait. Yes, thank you so very much for staying tuned. Tell us, Mr. Emmanuel, how prepared is the Connected Development, you know, in observing this election?
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me start by saying that we are very excited about this election. We've been waiting for this, and we're just a few hours to the big day. We are very prepared. We have over 20,000 observers across Nigeria, 36 states, and the FCT deployed already. They are positioned to hit their polling units as early as 7 a.m. tomorrow to send us reports on the process. We are going to be focusing on the process because we understand and we know that if the process is right, the outcome will be right. So we are going to focus on the process more like to test the Electoral Act 2022 and also ensure that INEC follows the INEC guidelines as they've been released to Nigerians, to ensure that they follow the INEC guidelines, so that if there is any gap, we'll identify it, and probably post-election, we will now try to use that to influence electoral reforms after 2020 general elections. Yeah.
Okay, Emmanuel, tell me, you know, you're supposed to also observe, you know, pre-election. What's your assessment, you know, of preparations by INEC, the electorate, and even the political parties?
Well, some of our colleagues, some of our observers, as we speak right now, they are in the rack centers. So how the election works, INEC they've decentralized the whole electoral system as such that at this time, in the past, typically INEC will move materials, sensitive and non-sensitive materials, from the local government to the polling units, which is why we see a lot of delays on election days. Now, INEC, they have decentralized this. They have what they call the racks. So as we speak at this time, we want to believe, and some of our observers are the rack centers, where all the security personnel who will be deployed to the polling unit, they are already at the racks. All the ad hoc staff are already at the racks, and all the materials have already been moved from the local government, INEC local government offices to these racks. So what the racks serves is more like a sub-unit of INEC offices that makes materials closer to the polling units. So by tomorrow morning, materials, instead of moving from local government, will be moving from the racks, materials, both sensitive and non-sensitive materials, the security personnel, the NURTW drivers. So in some of the racks where we have observed, we already know that some of the drivers of the NURTW, they've already fueled their cars and they are in the racks. So there is no reason from what we are seeing why INEC should not be at the polling unit early tomorrow morning by 8:30 a.m. for citizens to turn up and do this thing we've been waiting for, to cast their vote and choose their leaders for the next 4 years.
Okay, you set up this situation room, Emmanuel. Tell us, how will you be interfacing with the observers you're sending on the field? What should we be expecting from the situation room?
So tomorrow, when you come here tomorrow, the situation room has been on since morning, but most of our team, in this situation room tomorrow, we're going to have about 80 persons in this situation room, grouped across all the states. So we'll have 20,000 observers who are going to be sending us information, both structured and unstructured reports, talking around the incidents as they happen, and also focusing on the processes. So if there's vote buying in a particular place in Nigeria, we are going to be getting pictures, we're going to be getting videos of this event as is happening in those places. So as they are coming to our back end, we'll have a lot of people, young persons who will be here tomorrow, back end, analyzing this data and putting it on our front end. So we're asking Nigerians tomorrow to go to our platform, www.usabe.org, to also follow the elections as is happening across 20,000 polling units across Nigeria. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Finally, before I let you go, tell us what would be your expectations for tomorrow?
Well, we're excited, and this is an election like no other. This is an unusual election. This is one election that the game has completely changed. This is one election we are trusting on the beavers because of its ability to do biometric accreditation. So this is one election we are trusting that we will not see ghost voting. One election we are hoping that we will not see multiple voting. One election that we are expecting, because of how INEC have organized the election collation processes, we are expecting to see results in good time. So by midnight of Sunday, we hope that we'll be seeing results of some senatorial constituencies and some federal constituencies. And we are hoping that before morning, probably before 12 noon on Sunday afternoon, we should have had a new president in this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ima. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, talking with you. Thank you so much. Well, Musbah, you've heard it all. But then I told you earlier that I was at some foreign observers situation room, and we have quite a notable accredited foreign observers, over 30 foreign observer group accredited by INEC. We have the AU, the EU, ECOWAS, Commonwealth, led by notable people, especially past presidents. We have Thabo Mbeki of South Africa here in Nigeria. We have Joyce Banda of Malawi here in Nigeria. We even have Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya here in Nigeria. When I spoke to some of these people earlier, they are optimistic, and they describe Nigeria's election as Africa's largest democratic process. And they're also hopeful, Musbah, that this election is going to be like a model to other African countries. And basically, Musbah, that's all I have for you at this time. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, Ifeoma Ojinta. If I can just get some more words from you. You've interacted with some of these observation mission leaders. You talked about Uhuru Kenyatta leading the African Union team, and of course ECOWAS and UN. What are the convictions they are having about the preparations put in place by the electoral umpire?
Well, so far, they said they are satisfied with what, is on ground. They don't want to talk much. They said they will, observe, make their assessment, and make a recommendation that will be sent to the appropriate authorities. They're not giving out much information, but they are only hopeful, and they also promise that they are going to be very impartial, in their assessment.
Of course, that's what we expect of them, observe and be very neutral about the process, just to see how it is going. And of course, they're going to make their preliminary observation known to Nigerians and, of course, the international community as they do. Thanks a lot, Ifeoma Ojinta, and please stay safe wherever you are in town. And now back to the studio. A lot of interest here. We're seeing connected development, what they have been able to put in place to monitor the situation. And I'm sure very many organizations too, YEG Africa, CDD, and of course a lot of other observation bodies who are have an interest in this game of politics in Nigeria. It shows the place of this country on the continent and, of course, in the world. We've heard from President of the United States of America, Joe Biden, encouraging Nigerians to participate in this process. Before we hear more from you, let me quickly introduce another very big stakeholder in this process. Is the founder and CEO of the Albino Foundation, Jake Ekpele, joining us. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so you've been around town since morning. I can see you in your kids. What have you observed so far in the preparation?
Well, we have focused, we are very specific in our participation and very strategic. We are focusing on inclusivity, and that's our area, that's our turf. And so we've been looking at, one, INEC preparedness, the security situation, the overall preparedness of the community of persons with disability, and deploying 700 observers across board. And like I said, we're very strategic in our deployment because we are guided by the science of data. And so we are deploying where the data leads us and ensuring that the different clusters of persons with disability are truly represented. And of course, like I said, following the trail of INEC deployment of assistive material and ensuring that the community understand the processes and the dividends of the Electoral Act 2022, which has given us processes like priority voting and the ability for a certain category of persons with disability to benefit from the process. And of course, in generality, every person who are eligible to vote within the community of persons with disabilities. So we launched our situation room today and also deployed the dashboard, which was a welcome development. And we had a number of international development partners and the local partners graced the occasion.
All right, thank you very much for that. Of course, in just a moment, we'll see some statistics about some people living with disabilities and how the electoral umpire has been able to prepare for them to participate actively in this process. Now, we talked about the interest of people, the international community, in this election coming up for tomorrow. What do you think this will mean for Nigeria? That the whole world is looking at us, and of course, the mechanisms we've put in place. Do you want to reconcile them?
Absolutely. The Nigerian elections have, very big ramifications for democracy globally. You would agree with me that across the world, democracy has been troubled, in recent times, and so the level of solidarity and the level of interest we are seeing is from that understanding that if Nigeria pulls this through, this will be a big shot in the arm for democracy, not just within West Africa, but also on the African continent and also in the world. That was part of the narrative when President Joe Biden of the United States called the summit for democracy, because there was this understanding that democracy was experiencing hiccups in even in the United States itself, which is a bastion of world democracy. So this election in Nigeria, the interest, the encouragement Nigeria is getting, the support from the international community has been phenomenal, and it is now up to Nigerians, the Nigerian people, to take advantage of all the investments that we have made in this process, massive investment that's that's gone into this process, by turning out tomorrow, and for the election management body itself to also live up to all the promises it has made about its readiness for the polls. So I think the level of interest and the level of investment we have made domestically and internationally, it's all pushing us to that point where it will be a triumph, of the voices of the Nigerian people. So everyone is optimistic. Yes, there are challenges, very deep-seated challenges, but given the Nigerian spirit, the resilience, we are looking beyond those challenges and looking at the fact that we will renew our political system, we will renew our leadership process by recruiting a next set of leaders to pilot the affairs of our country.
All right, thank you. Triumph for Nigerians, and of course victory for democracy. That's what we expect out of this election. Now let's have another stop in town as we go to the INEC Collation Center of the International Conference Center in Abuja, where my colleague Mia Ogidi is standing by to give us some updates. Mia, good to see you. Tell us what's on ground at the Collation Center. We've heard from the INEC chairman earlier. What's more can you tell us?
Okay, thank you, Musbao. Around 3 o'clock this afternoon, the INEC chairman and the IGP held a meeting here, and they assured Nigerians that all is set for the elections. Just a matter of hours. And we are still here at the National Coalition Center at the International Conference Center, Abuja. And I can assure you, no dull moment here. Almost everyone is trying to put finishing touches to assignments given to them. Media men are still setting up their makeshift studios. Even decorators, they are putting final touches. And the chairs are well arranged and tagged VIP and all the rest. And if you just look behind me, you can see where the results will be announced. So everything is set. Security men, the place is beefed up with security men from all the agencies. If you go outside, you will see police, army, DSS, civil defense. All of them are on standby. And security, before you come in here, you must have this tag, purposely made for personnel that will have access to the National Coalition Center and that of the Situation Room. But we are very impressed with the situation here, because they are quite friendly with the media, and we have been here for almost 3 hours. And the security men, they give us that latitude to check around and do whatever we want to do after the of course, after the check at the entrance.
All right, it's good to know that you are having that partnership with the security personnel on ground there. Of course, we're all working towards the same aim and objective to ensure a very successful election. That's the verdict 2023, what Nigerians will decide, and that their decisions must be protected. Now, apart from all of these arrangements you talked about, what are the other activities dominating data center now? All right, Mia, you want to talk about other activities coming up at the center for now, or are we just waiting for the result to start coming in first? All right, the connection seems not to be very right. Mia Ogidi have a INEC Collation Center here at, all right. Okay, let's have you.
The situation room will be busy because the INEC chairman and all the national commissioners will be there monitoring situation across the country. And probably later in the evening, the chairman will declare the National Collation Center open, pending when state collation officers will start bringing in results from the state. And we are hopeful that this is the first time BVAS is going for a national scale, and with that BVAS, I think the transmission process will be faster than the previous elections. So all things being equal, activities will pick up fully later tomorrow when results will start coming in, all things being equal.
Thank you very much, Mia Ogidi. Of course, the major assignment there is for collation, and not until when we start having the results before the activities will commence. Thanks a lot for your time, and we hope to get any updates as you have them. Now back to the studio, we have three gentlemen with me. And now, let me talk to you, Mr. Ezinwa Nwogo, Chairman, Partners for Electoral Reforms and Election Observers. He's also of the YEGA Africa. You talked about the campaigns leading to this moment. Can we have a brief of assessment of these campaigns, how you think the candidates, political parties have been able to conduct themselves?
Well, thank you, Musba. I wanted to just talk about our friends who are international observers who had come in. Many also, apart from just solidarity, are also on a learning mission. Nigeria has also contributed. There are new innovations, especially our West African brothers and sisters. We have people from Tanzania, Zambia, Gambia, Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone will be having election, and Liberia will be having election later this year. So, the fact that we passed this our Electoral Act 2022. So,
what do you make of their presence? Is it of solidarity or?
That's what I'm telling you. That Hamfrey talked about solidarity, and I'm telling you that beyond solidarity, there is also those who have come to learn. Sure. And so it's something positive for Nigeria that we are also able to contribute things that people are learning. And it's not the first time. For the Kenyan election, there were people who left the country to go and also support. And we also have been supporting, innovations and elections in other parts of the world and Africa. I just wanted to underscore that fact, so that it's not just that it's solidarity for Nigeria is not a worst case scenario that everybody is coming to make sure that we do things right. There are things that we have done right, and some of them are coming here to learn those things. I just wanted to underscore that point. Now, for the campaigns, there were not quite a lot of issue-based campaign, as we will expect. The ritual of the jamborees that we know, music, dance, but a different innovation that came in this time was the engagement with the people through different kinds of town halls and meetings. And I think that will be able to help us track, because tracking is important. And the CDD, you know, if you remember, they had run the Buhari meter. So the gap has always been, we used to see. It did look to me like, there's a shift in terms of all that. But towards this end now, we are seeing some kind of fracas. And it is not across the country. It is in some parts of the country. Because I also worry about the scene of exaggeration. When people talk about across the country, we need to be able to pinpoint the places where we have 36 states and FCT. And so when things happen in 3 or 4 states, and in some parts of those states, it's important that we are very specific, because we have visitors among us. When they hear that there is trouble across the country, it gives them an impression that they should take the next flight out. And so I think it's important that our communication is such that it's specific and we can understand. There was a report yesterday that 100 corps members had withdrawn from participation. But nobody told us the number of corps members who were going to be deployed for that election, and whether it is possible to have reserve that we fill in those who. So that the complete story is not that people withdrew. It's also important to say what needs to happen to be able to deal with that. So the campaigns, for me, is a shift from what it used to be, but there is not a lot of talking to the people. There is more talking to, you know, the ceremonies and the rituals that we have known. But the long period of campaigns was also very interesting, because it pulled out in a way that we are able to then harness from the different periods what the politicians are saying and what they represent. Because election, like I said, does not in itself translate to citizen engagement, because it's after election that the real engagement will start. And the ingredients for that engagement, you get it from the campaigns and the conversations that happen during these campaigns. And I think that some of us have something to chew on when a leader emerges, and then we can hold them from that point.
Thank you very much, Ezinwa Nwagu. Amsfree Hajanaku, you just listened to him, and he touched some areas of interest, particularly some new developments coming into the process of campaign, town hall meetings, meeting with stakeholders and in different sectors of the nation's economy. Now, what more improvements have you seen in this the period of campaign that just ended, and the extension of the campaign period from 90 days to 150? Has it been justified?
Yes, absolutely. I think I agree completely with Ezinwa on those very key points around how the process has played out, and also particularly on the aspects in terms of Nigeria's contributions. And that's why I underscored the point that Nigeria's election in 2023, which is a few hours away, would be, if it pulls through successfully, would be a big shot in the arm for democracy, and the whole world is interested in that. Having said that, I think when you also look at the campaigns, Musbao, you would also find that we had lots of incidents of the political actors using misinformation. And if you consider the fact that in 2019 we had 27 million social media users, and in 2023 we're talking about social media users in the region of 36 million. So social media became a real battleground in this election. While I agree that we should not just analyze these issues on an anecdotal basis, we should be able to dive down into the data, like what Yaga Africa is doing with the PVT. There are also some qualitative aspects of the process that you need to interrogate seriously, because in this election We saw politicians, deploying social media influencers. Young people became like the conduits for misinformation that characterized the process all through the campaign period. And so the violence we talk about in, whether you talk about violence in pockets of areas across the country, come from the fact that the politicians, in a lot of instances, did not stick to the issues, but were more interested in disinforming the citizenry. And so you also had a situation in which social media, which should actually play a positive role in the civic awareness, in voter education, became a tool for disinforming people. So these are some of the challenges we saw in the process, and which we also tried to mitigate, like what CDD is currently doing with the social media war room, where we have a team that is set up to go after any form of misinformation. And like you saw today, there were a series of content that were trying to misinform citizens. There were some that were targeted at candidates, alleging that candidates wanted to rig the election. And so all through the the campaign period, you saw a lot of that playing out. And we believe that the role of fact-checking in this election was really very critical, and that's part of the work CDD tried to do to ensure that we don't just leave the space for. And there are a lot of people in our country, given also our literacy rate, who would believe anything they see on social media. So we also had a duty to go out there, and we have jingles running across the media ecosystem, trying to help people understand that they have a role to play in ensuring that they have some form of digital literacy. Don't share just anything you see because you have seen it on social media. Also try to verify, also try to check with fact checkers. And the last point I will make about that is the role our National Fact-Checking Coalition is playing, like 12 media organizations, pulling resources together to engage in the fact-checking process. I think that has been the only countermeasure to the disinformation that the political actors have put in this space. And I think that has to be highlighted as one of the key issues that came up in this campaign.
All right, thank you very much. Fake news is still a very major issue in Nigeria as we speak, and of course across the world. And we hope the fact checking that you talked about will see improvements in that to ensure that people get to know how to source the right information and where to get them. Now, let's quickly talk about some of our very important stakeholders. That's people living with disabilities and see their stake in this process. We have these statistics from INEC about people living with disabilities. And of course, people living with albinism are leading the chart with about 21,000. Right, 21,150, representing 24.5% of the registered voters. Of course, we have people with autism, blindness, cognitive learning, deafness, and Down syndrome, little stature, spinal cord injury, and of course others. That's constituting 27,636 people living with disabilities. That's 32.4% of the registered voters. Now, Mr. Jake Epele, from what you've seen on ground from the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, do you think these people have been well catered for to encourage them in participating?
Thank you very much. Let me, first of all, correct some form of not too accurate information. That's not the population of registered voters with disability. That information is just the data from the CVR exercise.
Okay. All of these are from INEC, by the way.
No. We worked with INEC. We took that data and reworked them and gave them what they are working with as of today.
Okay.
And so I'm speaking from the point of knowledge and engagement. Now, that's the volume of data that came out of the CVR exercise, which began in October. I think it will be a total insult to say that that's the number of persons with disability who are eligible to vote, because my number is not in that figure.
In this figure.
Yeah, because I had registered way back 2018. So it is just the registrants that INEC got as a result of the past CVR exercise.
All right.
Now, I want to say that the number of persons with disability that would participate and vote in this election is projected at about 16% of all the electoral of all the electorates. So it's far greater than what you have.
60% of the entire 16%.
Yes.
I see.
Yes. That's about 16% of about 87 million or thereabout. So what a lot of people have that misconception. A lot of people have that misconception that the 87,000 figure is the figure of persons with disability who participate in this election. That's not correct.
All right, it's good to have you.
We have done a strategic analysis of where the clusters of persons with disability are located. The very day we presented the dashboard, the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud, said, okay, go to my state. We went to Bauchi. Go to my local government. We went to his local government. Go to my ward. We went to his ward. And he saw that there were 2 persons with disability in his own ward. And that's before he went to London to present the dashboard at Chatham House. Well, he added it in his speech as part of the things that INEC is doing with our organization. So we are happy because our projection is that there is a likelihood of 60% participation of persons with disability. And I'm being very careful and mindful with figures, knowing fully well that the community of persons with disability has been having issues with voter apathy because sometimes of insecurity and lack of this provision. So what are those provisions? Number one, the magnifying glasses, which will help persons with albinism. There's the Braille ballot paper that will help the blind. And then, of course, the posters that will help the hard in hearing. Now, that's what I call the product that INEC will be providing for this election. But the biggest dividend is the process that INEC is providing based on the Electoral Act, Section 54, subsection 1 and 2. All right. And what are those processes? Number one, the very first one that 2 days ago INEC chairman announced, it was a question that I asked him and a suggestion. And he said, very well, we'll do it. Now, the issue around accessibility is a big issue. And we have those on the wheelchair that cannot access polling units that are placed maybe across gutter or a very high position that they will not be able to reach. What is the solution? We agreed, and Professor Mahmoud agreed with us that once that situation is on ground, the security personnel, the party agents should be approached, the presiding officer, so that they can bring that polling unit down to the location where that individual is. Now, Nigeria will not be the first country to do that. I saw that in Germany. I saw it in Kenya, and I think Ghana as well. So it's a huge innovation for us. And of course, processes like priority voting, which is a very good thing for people like us, especially persons with albinism. I mean, it takes just 10 minutes for me to burn in the sun. And as I burn consistently, or any person with albinism, you are equal to skin cancer, So it's a huge development for us. And of course, take for instance the blind. Okay, on getting to the polling unit, your aide leads you, go straight to the presiding officer, announce your presence, and then he will give you the Braille jacket if you can read the Braille. If you cannot read the Braille, your aide will lead you to where you will vote. Now, please listen. That aide has no right to tell you who to vote. It is absolutely your choice. Vote the candidate of your choice. Tell him the person you want to vote, or the political party that you want to vote for. And then he will take your hands and place it there. And of course, people without limbs also can also vote in this election. And several other processes that as you get to the polling unit and announce your presence, INEC presiding officers have been well trained. Their portal for training is still ongoing as at tonight. So the ad hoc staff can access it and then be properly trained, and it's very inclusive.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Jake Ekpele. And we really appreciate how you've been able to work in partnership with the electoral umpire on this process to ensure that the challenges are solved. Now, can we quickly take a look at the arrangement for security? Of course, we know the situation we have at hand in the country, insecurity in some parts of the country. Now, let me come to Ezenwa. With the deployment of security personnel across the country, do you think all of these are enough to ensure provision of adequate security for the people who are interested in, to participate in this process?
Well, I can't talk about adequacy. The reason is if you are deploying 400,000 thereabouts security agents across the country for a voting strength of 87 million, the mathematics you would be stretched. So we have to infuse, in fact, inflict citizen security engagement in a way that can guarantee the kind of outcome that we're looking for. Otherwise, we're short of the personnel that would, and the boots that needs to be on the ground to secure the election. But I also know that Hamstri used the word resilience of Nigerians. The Nigerian spirit is one in which you think we have gotten to the precipice, we just bounce back. There is a concentric understanding that it is in our enlightened self-interest as a people that this election goes well. And I think that will be what will secure the election. So if you're asking about whether what has been said would be adequate, I have constantly argued that election is a law-determined process. If election fails, it is a failure of law enforcement. And the security agents must wake up to the fact, especially the police, which is the leading organization for election, needs to understand that it has a constitutional responsibility to enforce all laws beyond elections. And so we need to change the mindset that is election, and that crimes committed during election should wait for one electoral offenses tribunal before we can deal with it. I think there is that mindset needs to change. We need to be able to put a mechanism for sanction, for prosecution. And the idea that, oh, INEC is INEC's responsibility is not INEC's responsibility. That is why you have the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security. And as I've argued in this platform, we need to begin to match service delivery outcomes with value for money. If we are going to be deploying 400,000 and the humongous amount of money that we will put in that engagement, it should result in arrest of people who want to cause trouble. It would be important to be able to arrest and prosecute people who may want to induce voters and who want to create a climate of fear. Because once that takes place, then the integrity of this election is reduced. So I think that the security agencies have a bigger responsibility, but there needs to be much more cooperation from citizen organizations. The traditional and moral institutions need to play a role right now. This is the point in which they have a role. The traditional rulers, the faith-based organizations need to come out much more in terms of advocacy for peace. And a place we are not investing a lot of time in is in the place of management of victory and loss, because that point is also a trigger for violence. If the victors behave in a way that does not seem like they are magnanimous in victory, then it can also, and then those who lose should also understand that there is a tomorrow, that if they don't win today, if the process is right, and that is where civil society comes in. We are process watchers. Outcomes are for partisans. We are essentially process watchers, and we are oversighting the process in a way that when the outcome, when there is an outcome, even the loser and the victor will find accommodation in the sense that, and I think that is where we, yes.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to talk more about the security and how it's going to affect the turnout of people who are expected to participate in the process. But for now, let's quickly take our report and take a look at the innovations that the electoral umpire, talking about INEC, has been able to put in place to ensure that we have a credible electoral process this year. All right, we're taking a look at the innovations. Of course, we've heard about BVAS, that's the bimodal voter accreditation system. That's one of them. But let's take a look at other innovations that INEC has put in place to ensure that we have credible process. All right, we'll come back to that. I guess we're trying to put it in place to come up very soon. Now, Mr. Ajanaku, we're talking about security situation, and reports are coming in from some part of the country, pockets of cases. What do you think this will portend for this process starting from now? This night is leading to the process. Polls will be opening in just a matter of hours. How do you think this affects the confidence of the electorate?
So of course, in areas where there have been skirmishes, where there have been attacks through election week, of course, that brings a fear factor in terms of inducing voter apathy and making it really that the electoral terrain is not safe for people who would want to come out, to vote. So, the CDD pre-election report, for instance, talked about one of the 5 I's, which is insecurity.
Yeah.
And one of the things we identified, and I think that ties into what my colleague and mentor, Ezenwanwagu, talked about the fact that you just cannot match the numbers you want to deploy to the number of voters that we're talking about in this election. And so that is where the discussions around peace accord come in, because we had this whole thinking about you have to look at the drivers of the violence. You have to look at the drivers of insecurity, because this whole idea that you'll be able to use all the manpower, the material you need to subdue insecurity, especially in an electoral terrain that is as large as ours, is really a big challenge. And so, which is why the focus on the key drivers of insecurity become really very critical. And as we head into election day, we are also hopeful that the trouble spots, the security agencies will also be able to deploy strategically to also look at the areas where which are potential flashpoints, and will be able to secure those places. And the other areas that are not too problematic, everything will go on smoothly. So insecurity definitely is something that would play a role in those areas where you have incidents. And even as recent as today, yesterday, there were still incidents of electoral violence, attacks on supporters, and all of that. But the other point is, throughout this election cycle, during the campaigns, we saw attacks on party supporters. In fact, from our own documentation, we saw around 60 attacks, from September 28th, when the campaign period started, resulting in like 9 deaths, in the course of those attacks. And the point Ezewan made is very critical. We didn't see a commensurate response in terms of holding, or a process starting, to hold, the people who perpetrated those, attacks accountable. So if you give the impression that, it's free for all, and, people can do those things and get away with it, then that culture would continue. We will come another electoral cycle, and we are discussing the same thing. So this is the point we have always made in saying that the perpetrators, and many of them are known, in cases where people went to rallies, attacked other party supporters, in other instances where all those kinds of violence took place during the political process. Some of the perpetrators are known, and they are working scot-free. So that's not encouraging. So if we talk about insecurity, I think those are the drivers that essentially have to be addressed, because I do not think that you would be able to, because even before elections, the country has experienced insecurity on a very, very significant scale, to the point that the military is deployed in close to over 30 states across the country. So it is that context, that fragile security context, that the elections are taking place. So we are also hopeful, because we do not want this to be the factor that would define the process and the conduct of the election, and by extension its outcome. We want to be able to see an electoral process that tomorrow that is largely peaceful, and where we don't have violence disrupting the process on a scale that makes it an ungovernable process.
All right, thank you very much. Of course, peace is a watchword. Without peace, we cannot even have a country to call our own, and this process that we are waiting for cannot even take place, and there must be a penalty or for any of the offense committed by anybody. There should be some people to serve as deterrent to discourage people from doing what is not allowed by law. Now, we're talking of 24 years of democracy in Nigeria, and I suppose we're supposed to be seeing a level of improvement, maturity in the process, with the way and manner we conduct this process. Mr. Epele, you want to quickly talk about the maturity you have seen so far in this democratic process, particularly when it comes to electoral process?
Well, the inclusion component of the inclusion component in the democratic process is part of the maturity, because I always say that when a particular segment of people are excluded in a democratic process, it's no longer democracy. And so the inclusion of persons with disability and other marginalized groups, including a greater proportion of women, is a sure sign of a maturing democratic process. The provision of the assistive material that makes for greater inclusion is also a sign of that maturity. But also, it's important, you were talking about security, that our findings, our research have shown that the state of insecurity is traceable to voter apathy amongst persons with disability. Take, for instance, myself. If I'm in an environment where, assuming a security operative is using a sign to say we should evacuate this environment, right where you're seated and where I'm seated, when you wave your hands, I may not see that you're waving your hands. And so that leaves me vulnerable, you know. And so that is the issue, that is the trend. Until we begin to train the security operatives and personnel to understand inclusion. And that's what we did a few weeks ago when we had the privilege of bringing together all the assistant commissioners of police responsible for election and that of civil defense, because both of them, our finding shows that they are the ultimate drivers of security during election. And so we've also previously engaged the army and the immigration and everybody. And so the outcome of that is the guidelines on for intersecurity agencies on inclusivity, which fortunately this week we shipped to the police and then to this civil defense. I mean the printed copy and then the electronic copy. So giving that sense of security for the vulnerable group is also part of the maturity. Advocates of inclusivity, like Ezenwa, who is seated here, like what CCD is doing, are also a sign of maturity. I mean, few years back, if you take a retrospective dive, you will notice that nobody will be discussing inclusivity on the national television. That opportunity was not there. So it also shows that sign of maturity. And of course, the media has a critical role to play. If we must, you are one of the critical drivers of inclusivity because you are the voice of the voiceless. You know, I want to say that, you know, the opportunities that I have had, the privileges that I have enjoyed in terms of feasibility, NTA is chiefly responsible for it. And so today we are talking about albinism or other forms of disability because of the visibility that we have received. And so that also in itself is a sign of growth, a sign of maturity. Now, participation, especially in terms of elective offices, for the first time, we have one governorship candidate that is likely to win. One governorship candidate with albinism. We have 22 candidates who are contesting at various sub-national assemblies. We have 8 who are contesting for House of Representatives, and we have 5 who are contesting for the senatorial zone. And that's a welcome development compared to the last election when we had just 5 persons with disability contesting for elective office. Today we have 34. And that's huge. And by no means, I'm not campaigning, but I'm trusting the electorate to elect our candidates, persons with disability, across board. So at the end of the day, we are tracking real time what is happening in the field and what are the opportunities of these people, and we will be analyzing them on real time.
Right, thank you very much for that. And of course, part of what we expect from this is a development from time to time. We cannot continue to have the same thing over the years. And if you want to ensure improvement, you must do some things in very different ways. And now let's see some of the innovations that the INEC has put in place to ensure a credible process in this election.
These were the dark days of election in Nigeria. Snatching of ballot box, idolizing thuggery and electoral violence, and demeaning the electorate and INEC. In 2011, Professor Jega rejigs the process. Major reforms struck, beginning the process of transition from analog to digital electoral process. Permanent voters card introduced, and later smart card reader in the build-up to the 2015 election.
It helps against rigging in many fundamental respects. Most importantly, and that's why I guess some people do not want the card reader, if some people manipulate accreditation statistics to favor a candidate, and it became evident that there is manipulation, we can use the information on the card reader to audit the result, the accreditation details in that polling unit, and to establish whether or not an irregularity has occurred.
The coming of technology gives a new look to the electoral process, signaling the end of ballot box snatching in Nigeria. Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, the successor to Jega, builds on Jega's successes, taking a step further, fading out card reader and incident forms.
The apprehension, therefore, is that by using the incident form to cover those whose fingerprints are not authenticated by the smart card reader, a voter may be able to use another person's PVC to vote during an election. Over the last 1 year, we reviewed the situation, and we think we have found the appropriate technology to address the problem.
Bringing in bimodal voter accreditation system BVAS to the process.
On election day, the same device will become the bimodal voter accreditation system BVAS, to be used first for fingerprint authentication during accreditation, and where it fails, for facial accreditation. We believe this will eliminate the possibility of voting by identity theft using another person's PVC. Where the voter fails both the fingerprint and facial authentication, he or she will not be allowed to vote. Going forward, the mantra is no electronic authentication, no voting.
Beavers will be going for the first time on the national scale in the 2023 elections. But the tribunal ruling on the Osun governorship election puts Beavers to test. But INEC is not discouraged.
The Beavers never failed anywhere, and as you have seen here, the machine actually never failed. But in every situation, the commission learns, carries the experience from what has happened towards improving the processes for the next election. We have learned some lessons from what happened, and one of the lessons is to be able to transmit the accreditation data.
INEC is proud of the integrity of the technology being deployed, but this will be put to test on February 25 and March 11. Whether INEC will convince Nigerians or Nigerians will ask INEC some questions. Mayor Ogidi, NTA News.
All right, Mayor Ogidi, thanks a lot for that report. Now, Mr. Ekpele, you have some observations about the deployment of... all right, we're going to get into that very soon. But talking about the mechanisms put in place for this process and what we expect tomorrow, let's begin to interrogate the process now. Mr. Nwangu, I'm going to start with you. What are those things that you expect INEC to put in place, particularly for a seamless exercise?
Well, I think tomorrow will be about voting.
Yeah.
So we're going to be interested in how the polls open. We'll be looking at the punctuality index, what is the percentage of polling units that are able to open at the determined time of 8:30 in the morning. We want to see how seamless the accreditation process and voting will go. We want to see what the much touted beaver, how it will perform. I know that there has been quite a lot of testing of the beavers, and happily from the mock exercise that INEC did, the beavers didn't do badly. But you know, mock is what it is. We're going to be facing real-time situation. We're going to be watching how the electoral officials, the presiding officers, the APOs, and their support system, what is going to be yielding in terms of time and effective management of the voters. We're going to be looking at how the result management system, that's the collation of results and the returns that will be made, and how that gets into the IREV, the result, INEC result portal. So attention will be on those instruments. We're going to also be looking at the conduct of the security agents. The architecture, the security architecture for voting day is that the military will be at the outer layers, and 300 meters you have armed policemen, and then you have unarmed security agents in the polling units. We're going to be watching out for their conduct. We want to see how professional they are, and at the end of the day, the election administration will be on trial. And from what we have heard from INEC, I've seen confidence, but I know it's in their remit to inspire confidence, and it's in the remit of those of us who have outside the system to continue to watch for the purpose of, there are situation rooms that are for real time. So the PVT, by tomorrow by 1 o'clock, we'll be issuing a statement. We'll be having a press conference on, the process itself. We'll be giving situational statement on the opening of the poll, the punctuality index, and the number of people who were able to vote. and then maybe on Sunday we'll give another statement. And then we also will be deploying the election results analysis dashboard, which will harvest results from, the IREV and make it available to Nigerians real time. And we have what we also call the Election Manipulation Risk Index, where the first report we have produced, which has also clearly identified for Nigerians, gave Nigerians a scanning machine, if you like, of what to look out for on election day. INEC capture, voter suppression, and all of the other issues that we have put in that election risk manipulation index. So basically tomorrow, the conduct of the electorates themselves, how peaceful are they? How much do they understand the voting process? All of the voter education that has happened, both by civil society, by the Independent National Electoral Commission, all of that is coming out tomorrow. But much more than that is to see what is the climate of the election. Is it a climate of fear? Is it a climate of inducement? Is it a climate of free choice? I think that for us will be what will be significant. And as you know, there are a plethora of domestic and international observers. There are the media, the attention of not just the domestic, not just the national media, but international media. And you know what they're looking out for? Most of the time, they are not looking out for good news. So it is important that the Nigerian people themselves conduct themselves in a way that will inspire that confidence and make this surge of friends and frenemies as well who have come into the country to not to have tools to which to deride our process. But in all, I think that we're going to give a good account of ourselves tomorrow.
Right, that's the biggest hope from electorates and, of course, other stakeholders in this process. But for now, let's take a look at the people that will decide in this process, talking about the registered voters and those who really can say they are voters in this process, talking about those who have the PVCs. And based on the information coming from INEC, 93.469 people have been registered for this process. But then, not all of these people will participate in this process because not all of them have got PVCs. Now, let's see those who have collected. According to the information from INEC, we have 87.209 million people who have been able to collect PVCs based on the information given by the chairman of the INEC. And this is representing 93.3% of the registered voters in Nigeria. And then we have those who are yet to get their PVCs, whose PVCs are still under the custody of the electoral umpire. That's at 6.259 million. That's 6.7% of the people who were registered for the process. And quickly, we'll take a look at the state with highest number of PVCs collectors, and that is Lagos. It's 6.214 million people who are registered out of the more than 7 million people who are registered in Lagos. Now, let's quickly interrogate this. We've seen some improvements, but would you say this is enough, Mr. Ajenaku, for this process? 93.4 registered, but then only 87.2 were able to get PVCs. And I'm very sure not all of those who got that PVC, the PVCs, will be able to participate in the process too, based on some factors. What do you make of this?
Yeah, so this is also a reflection of some of the challenges that a lot of people who wanted to pick up their PVCs encountered during the PVC collection phase. you still had up to the last minute INEC, doing 2 extensions to ensure that a lot more people, picked up their PVCs, and that's why we are seeing these numbers, the 87 million INEC stretched and stretched, to accommodate a lot more people in the process. But again, the process itself was really very challenging. And these figures we are interrogating, you are also seeing a lot of stories as we drill down to the elections. There was a story of a hunter, seeing some, uncollected PVCs in a bush, yeah, and things like that. So largely, I won't want to blame the 6 million voters who were not able to pick up their PVCs. Of course, the process has to go on, but our own interest as civil society will be that everybody who has, taken the pains to register, gone through all of that, process, should be able to now come to this final phase. And then I think this discussion also ties in to the discussion around, what would the voter turnout, be like tomorrow. We are hoping to see a much more impressive voter turnout, to go beyond what we have seen in previous elections. So if we have seen 87 million picking up PVCs, then that should also translate into a higher percentage of the votes turning out on election day. So on the whole, we want to be very, very optimistic that we're going to see a good level of turnout tomorrow, and we're going to see a process that
0.2 million people having access to PVCs. But then we still have some cases, a pocket of them, of people who registered, probably transferred from one place to the other, but yet they could not get PVCs because those PVCs were not printed. How about that?
Well, I think first is to appreciate the fact that the legal framework has given us opportunity now to be dealing with the number of PVCs collected. Yeah. So previously, you will just have the number of registered voters. Now, we're dealing with the number of people who collected the PVC. Those are those who will be voting. We are planning for 87.
Those who are eligible, out of the eligible...
out of the eligible 93 million. That's something significant that we need to underscore. We also need to understand that that legal framework has made it compulsory for INEC to provide assistive materials. It is no longer whether they want to. The new legal framework compels them to do so. So this shift, so these 6 million people, there are many reasons that you can adduce for that. And that is a high in terms of the number of PVCs that have ever been collected in previous elections. So many may have, passed on. It is also possible that some people, because of the bottlenecks and the hurdles that were placed on their way in collecting this PVC, became disinterested. So all of those issues is a conversation that we need to have about the whole idea of encumbering something as simple as registering to be a voter. The huge challenge itself, the whole resource that is put into that process is unnecessary. It should be seamless. You turn 18, you walk into, a center, and it should be something that we pull from, not just when you turn 18. There should be that passion, and it comes from the quality of our civic education, not our voter education. The civic education process should be one that inspires you to want to, vote once you turn 18. And this transfer, difficulty in transfer, where you have to go back and you face INEC officials, you swear if you lost your permanent voter's card, you swear affidavit, all of those things are issues around power. We now create a power center and shrines that have to be worshipped by citizens regularly every election cycle. And we need to dismantle those shrines as quickly as possible. So what will happen to those 6,000? Unfortunately, they are not eligible to vote in this cycle of elections.
This round of elections.
In this cycle of elections. And Nigeria is not coming to an end. Immediately, as they say, once this process ends, another one begins. So it's important that we leave it at that and hope that among these 87,000 million people that are prospective voters, if we get 50%, that will be a shift. It will be a monumental shift. Because collection of PVC has, for many people, it's not just, they've not been able to understand the power, what that PVC means, really. And I make the point always that you can have several ATM cards. You can have, the richer you are, the more cards you can have. But whether you are rich or you're poor, there is an equalization that has happened through democracy, that you can only have one PVC, even if you are the president of the country or you are the least of the citizens of the country. Only if you are found with more than one PVC, you can have a room in a correctional center.
Right.
So that the power of that is important, and that it is significant for changing or retaining power and leadership. So if you're excited, you can use that instrument to keep your excitement. If you are angry, you can use it to redress your anger. And the more citizens understand that, the better for them. So it's not just the figures. We have these figures. We have 84 million people registered before the 94 million that we have.
Yeah.
Out of that, we have never had 30 million people voting. And that is significant. That is important. So all the energy that civil society, the Albino Foundation, everybody has put in this. Like I said, electoral administration is on trial. Our investment also is on trial. We want to see whether there are dividends for our investment. And the only way we can see that is in citizen participation. Why should citizens participate? If you don't participate, if you don't vote, you have voted. You have voted for what you don't want. So staying at home and saying, oh, I don't care, I'm not going to vote, my votes don't count. I think we have passed that level now. We are at the point where you understand that the incremental progress that we have made in our electoral process have opened the door for your vote to count. The investment in beavers, the investment in IREV, the investment in even what you're doing now, the improvement that we have seen in this studio, the quality of analysis that has come out, is all to ensure that citizens are able to have the power and understand what it means. And I think that should not be taken for granted.
All right, thank you very much. I think I like that word. If you have not voted, it means you have voted for what you don't want. That's really good. Now, we had 2 extensions. INEC scheduled PVC collections for December to January 22. But then, after some calls, INEC extended from 22 to 29 January, and then more calls came in. It was extended till February 5 again. With these extensions, yet over 6 million people who were registered were still not able to get their PVCs. Mr. Ajenaku, do you think these extensions has been justified at all?
No, I think the extensions were, very much justified. In fact, that we got to the number.
And what if we didn't have it at all?
Yes. Like that we got to this number is actually very much a milestone, and I think that the challenges, especially when you combine the numbers that, number of people who couldn't stay on the long queues to collect PVCs, then also the registration, the people who wanted to do transfer and very many of them, who actually wanted to do transfer but couldn't get that done, or had, are still in the process, and the process has not, been completed before this. So 6 million is a significant. That's the population of some countries, in the world. So it's a significant number. We will continue pushing while we go on with tomorrow. There's no point crying over, spilt milk. We will continue to push for the process to become a lot more simpler, such that people don't have to, because you even got to points. We had some stories of some INEC officials, like in Enugu, you had that case of an INEC official, collecting bribe. It's an isolated case anyway, but that shows the level of interest people have had in this process, pushing against the odds to pick up their PVCs. But unfortunately, this over 6 million cannot do that. We'll go into tomorrow's process. I think the people who will be voting tomorrow should actually give some sort of joy to this 6 million by participating robustly in the process, such that in the coming elections, this 6 million will also be inspired to now eventually maybe pick up their PVCs and be a part of the process. So the democracy and the whole voting process is meant for the citizen. And, as civil societies, are a joy to see. In fact, if we can have the whole 93 million, come into the process, we'll be happy for that. But for tomorrow, I think this number is not a bad one. It's, encouraging. Yes, it's encouraging. And I want to also see, or we want to also see that translate in the turnout. So let's move beyond the turnout of 35%, 34%. In 2019, we are hovering around, around that. Let's see a lot more people coming to participate, especially now that, the youth demographic. And the other day, I was also arguing here that the youth demographic constituting around 35 million, of the voting strength in this election. That is significant. So we want to see that demographic come out and be a part of the process. Let them bring all of that energy and bring it to bear on the process.
All right, thank you very much. Now, Mr. Ekwele, we've been talking about the 6.2 million uncollected PVCs, but then we still have a case of these 87.2 who have been able to get their PVCs. But there are fears that out of this number, not all of them will participate based on certain factors. Those who are on essential duties, like security personnel, like myself and some other people in the health sector and all of that. So what do you make of these? What are the factors you think will contribute to people not being able to participate in this process out of this 87.2 million people?
I think maybe the major factor will be the cash crunch.
Okay.
And the fact that people don't have access to their money. It will impact this election, There's no doubt about it. The state of insecurity in certain part of the country, INEC has already said a very huge number of polling units that there will be no election in the zones where they are, in the area where they are located because of insecurity, And of course, the fear of violence, that there's a likelihood, people are, most of them are afraid that, one thing or the other could happen, especially the community of persons with disability, Of course, when you don't have legs and or you don't have eyes or You don't have, you are very vulnerable, So that also would be, and then of course, the hard facts. There are also a demography of people who don't believe in the process. They don't believe that, look, they say it's a waste of time. Who am I going to vote? Nothing will come out of it. The skeptics are also there. So this demography of people definitely, if they absent themselves from the process, will impact the process.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. J.K. Pwile. Now, we're having the 7th general election since 1999. That's 4 years, like we have said earlier. Now, are you not, Mr. Nwangu now, are you not disturbed that we have not seen certain developments or improvements, you want to call it, in some areas like people on essential duties or people in Nigerians in diaspora who are supposed to be part of this process now being disenfranchised because of the kind of arrangement we still have in Nigeria? We've seen in some neighboring countries, African countries, smaller countries, sorry if I may use that word, where we have elections before the election day. I mean, they do it in proxy. Why can't we have that in Nigeria after several years of electoral process in this country?
I think the trust deficit is a huge challenge generally. First, let's look at your concern about diaspora voting. What we have struggled to do is to remove the legal obstacle around that so that you can have diaspora voting. If the mechanics of it, that the mechanics that you need to put in place allows you to do that. In the countries where you have diaspora voting, there are clear parameters for that to happen. If you have, in Sudan, for instance, what is the population of Nigerians who are in Sudan?
Yeah.
How many are documented? How many are undocumented? So if you bring that vote from just Sudan alone, you can change the dynamics of the election.
Right.
So you need to agree that it is the legal framework that needs to alter
Put in place,
so that the mechanics of that, you can then begin to talk about that. The whole expansion of the democratic space is a long haul. It's not a walk in the park. We've struggled for independent candidacy. It has not come, but it will come. There was a struggle to reduce the age for contesting elections, which was a struggle in itself. So the challenge for me is simply that we have a trust deficit. In these places that you talk about, electoral officials take electoral materials to their houses. In your country, you put your electoral materials in the CBN. You have to keep it in the CBN. And then you have to go to CBN to retrieve it. Everybody will come. All eyes will be on it. You follow it from one. So if we begin to inspire trust in our process, then we can begin to work all of this out. But for those who are on essential duties, okay, in Ghana and some other places, there are people who can vote 3 days to that period.
Yeah.
The challenge of it is huge. It's not impossible. We need to begin to think in that direction for those who want to to vote. And it's part of the reforms that will come. That's because we are coming from a sense of immediate effect that military rule handed over to us. The process of civilianizing is not going to be as easy as we think, but it cannot take forever. So the concerns that we are raising, as it thickens in the next haul of amendments, that we're going to have, we're going to begin to work out the mechanics for that. We didn't think that it was going to be possible for us to be electronically transmitting results. But we are there now. We didn't know that we will have beavers when the smart card reader was a legal tussle up to the Supreme Court. So the struggle to expand the democratic space is not a walk in the park. It takes the collective energy of citizens who want change and reform to be able to bring that to bear. And we must be focused on this. But much more importantly, is to test out the opportunities that we have now. Because we are still dealing with 87 million people, and we are excited if we have 50%. We are going to be very happy if that happens. So the challenge really is not so much about, is to do those things that will make citizens be happier to even participate. Governance, democracy will need to work for the greater majority of the citizens in a way that inspires them to say, look, this thing is working for us. If it's not working for them, you will need to preach quite much more for a lot of people to be interested. So the number of people who are essential duties, and as we speak now, there are many people who can vote, but the nature of the work itself does not allow them to vote. The joke that I make is, if you were a soldier and you hear that you are supposed to be worshiping in a mosque, and you are told that the mosque where you'll be worshiping will come under attack, you are not going to go and pray. You will stay to protect those who will be praying. So the work of essential workers, you need to also look at what is it that they are doing. For some of us in civil society who are in the observation exercise component of this work, we are careful also because of our sense of neutrality and impartiality, that when we go to vote, it can imperil the perception. So that conversation is not holding. But what is important is that the legal, obstacles that make it impossible for this to happen will need to be removed.
Great, indeed. Thank you very much for that establishment. Now, Mr. Ajanaku, what possibilities of improvement do you see to ensure more people from those who have been able to collect their PVCs will actually participate in the process?
Yeah, first of all, I think to answer that question is to celebrate the wins democracy has had. Because, when you mentioned 1999, I looked at even the video the Americans released just like 2 days ago, in which they were talking about, the Nigerian elections. People should go out there and, vote in, the leaders of, their choice. And it was really very interesting to me that when we did the election observation in 2015, the same PVT, which Yaga is anchoring now, one of the American officials was Thomas Linda Greenfield. She was here in 2015, and she was one of the persons in in that video released by the State Department, talking about the Nigerian election. That tells me that we have, seen some level of consistency in the process, which should be celebrated. And I like the fact that Nigeria is in the company of world democracies, and we are having conversations about how this process is so valuable, or could be very much more valuable to citizens in terms of translating the efforts and exertions in the democratic process to the bread and butter that would make the lives of citizens better. So celebrating that unbroken chain, that 7th consecutive general election is massive achievement that we should. So when we now come to the point of Oliver Twist, we want more, from the process. We want the quality of the process to be better. We want the process to be a lot more seamless. We want even people who are not, able to participate, for some reasons or the other, to be able to participate. Those are very valid conversations to have, and those conversations only come about because we have come, thus far. So for us at the Center for Democracy and Development, for instance, at our analysis center, what we are also trying to do is to also work in shifts so that people who, some of our colleagues who have their polling units close by, within like municipal, can also go and cast their ballots. So, but before these reforms we're talking about come, I think everybody's participation in the process is really very critical, because I don't want to be on the sidelines urging people to go out there and vote, and I myself am not participating. So it's something we would like to see. We'd like to see some of those hiccups that are in the process removed. For instance, why can't I stay in Abuja and vote even if I'm registered in Lagos? Right? All of those things are things that eventually we believe that incrementally the process will be reformed, and we will have a lot more of our citizens participating. And importantly, Ezenwa mentioned that democracy delivering for the people, because the only way for democracy to have legitimacy is if it delivers for the people. If the people can see the connection between democracy and, improvement in the quality of their lives. But if that improvement is not there, you are going to have things like voter apathy, people...
no big justification for participation.
Exactly. So that connection is it's very, very important, that the people are energized on the basis of, how democracy is transforming their life, which is why we also talk about, the people electing credible leaders, responsible leaders who would, be invested in, in ensuring that they tailor their programs to make, people's lives better, addressing security. We have 163 million multidimensionally poor people. The democratic process should be able to provide answers to all of those problems.
All right, thank you very much. Officially, it's about 6 minutes before the election day and a few hours before the opening of polls for people to decide in this 2023 general elections, talking about the presidential and National Assembly elections. Now, Mr. Jack Epele, in a few hours from now, we're going to the polls talking about Nigerians, those who have PVCs to do so. What do you expect in just a few 1 minute?
I expect, first and foremost, participation of everyone who is ready to cast their vote. Active participation. I expect INEC to provide all the necessary electoral resources that will make this process realizable. I expect the INEC staff on duty to be there on time and follow strictly the rules of the game, but ultimately the Electoral Act. I expect that the beavers will work. I believe that. I also expect that the processes will be seamless, and eventually the winner by the choice of citizens will emerge. I expect that this time around, instead of all kinds of violence post-election, that there will be a victory march, and that brothers will meet brothers on the road.
All right.
Sisters will meet sisters on the, I expect that whoever wins will unite this country and work to ensure that the days of the true Nigeria as a country, with pride and dignity, will be realized, And of course, I expect all of the hard work of civil society and champions of democracy, we will step back, and see them actualize.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. J. Kepele, founder, CEO of your Bino Foundation, for your time and perspectives on this program.
Thank you, sir.
And of course, we also have Mr. Amsfree Ajanako, media and election expert from the Center for Democracy and Development, who has been with us since. And of course, Chief Ezenwa Nwago, Chairman, Partners for Electoral Reforms and Election Observers. We appreciate your time on the show, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, Nigerians, or as a Nigerian, if you're part of if you're one of those who have collected the PVCs and you're positioned to participate in the process tomorrow, play a role. It's what you are expected to do. Take a step and take a decision to get a better Nigeria. Remember, this studio will reopen tomorrow from the dawn of the day, and we'll begin to give you updates from across the country as they unfold. Thanks a lot for being part of this show up to this moment. Rejoin us tomorrow for coverage of this general election. It's been Verdict 2023 on NTA, and we appreciate the time. Join us again tomorrow and stay safe.
So feel powerful with the NTA News mobile app, the one-stop information center. Real news at your fingertip. Be the first to report by uploading first-hand information on the You Report link, and be the first to know by simply clicking on any of the links on the sidebar for headlines, domestic and foreign news, economy, security, politics, sports, and more. Stream live on your smartphone and tablets and stay connected. It's pretty easy. Simply download NTA News app from your Google Play Store and you're good to go. NTA News mobile app, your access to real-time information.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can watch NTA International live on your TV, computer, iPad, tablet and phone. Log on to visiontv.co.uk and click on Entertainment, then NTAI. You can also download the iOS or Android app on your mobile devices to watch NTA International on the go, anywhere in the world. NTA International, your window to the world.
This is Nok, a village in the southern part of Kaduna State, Nigeria.
It is a village with a history of ancient civilization, situated in Jaba local government area of Kaduna State. Nok is surrounded by beautiful mountains, displaying the beauty of nature. It also has open grasslands, which enables the inhabitants practice farming, which has been their major occupation. As you approach the entrance to Nok, on your way from Koi, the administrative capital of Jaba local government area, a beautiful terracotta figure reveals to you that you have arrived the village with great history. The village earned its name owing to the discovery of terracotta figures in the area in 1928. Although Nok is known more for terracotta works, there are abundant historic sites that make the village an ideal tourist destination. The people of Nok from ancient times were known for their extremely advanced social systems and were the earliest producers of life-size terracotta in the sub-Sahara. They were a homogeneous group of people who had a well-ordered economy and good system of government. Three key features of governance in Nok were security, welfare, and justice. These characteristics are more clearly displayed as we take you to the various historic sites in Nok and explain the functions they performed in the lives of the historic people. One of such sites is the first settlement of the ancient people of Nok. Before you could get to the point where they first settled, which is on the top of the mountain, you would have to pass through what they considered security gates while you are watched as you climb up.
The issue of security as it is today is known right from 2,500 years ago. During the settlement of the Nok people, as we approach the first settlement of the Nok people, this is where you have to come first. This is where they call the first gate, and then before you move, you have to pass through this gate. And of course, you know what it means. Coming up from down there, you will be sighted, and then if you are coming as an enemy, it will be made easy for them, and then you are located.
After crossing the three security gates, then you arrive here at the first settlement. As you can see, although the buildings are no longer standing, the place indicates living signs of habitation. It was from this point that the ancient people of Nok moved down the hill and settled in the present Nok village.
Here we are at the first settlement of the people of Nok. More than 2,500 years ago, the people of Nok settled here before they went down to the present village of Nok. As you can see, these are signs of room-by-room arrangement of where people lived when they were here.
In their own way, they advanced welfare policies, one of which was health care. They identified a cave referred to as the welfare cave today. In the cave, pregnant women nearing delivery period were taken care of. The cave had a waiting room as well as the delivery room, as in modern-day hospitals. This point you are now watching served as the waiting room, and this, the delivery room. For treatment, the tree of life, which is still standing, came in handy.
Herbs. So from there, if a woman gives birth, they will just fetch the water and give her. She drink the water, she will feel as if she's not the one that give birth. She will feel strong and strong more than the way she is before.
Myths also have it that only 2 species of the tree still exist in Africa. The tree of life does not shed its leaves, and no bird lands on it. The people of Nok cared for the vulnerable and offered them protection at all times. Come with us to the hidden cave as we explore the purpose it served in the welfare and security of the vulnerable ones during wars in the ancient village of Nok.
Right now we are at the entrance to the hiding cave. Why do we call it hiding cave? The hiding cave provides safety and security to vulnerable people during wars. All the women, the aged, the sick, children, physically challenged people during wars, all will move into this cave and will stay in this cave for as long as the war will last. As they are going in, they go in with their cooking utensils, raw food, firewood, and everything. So all of them will stay here until when the war is over before they will come out. The cave is about 400 meters long, and it can accommodate more than 2,000 people at a go.
Our curiosity took us inside the cave to have a feel of what the ancient people felt.
The terrain is rough, very, but the weather in here is cool, natural AC. Here we go, hiding cave.
Watch out, where you are marching.
Another historical site at Nok is the Burn Cave. This cave houses burns built by the Nok people over 2,000 years ago. The burns are still standing. They serve the purpose of grain storage for the welfare of the entire community. The dispensation of justice is paramount in the existence of any civilized society. It was established in the ancient Nok society, pointing at its civilized nature. Cases could be tried and concluded at the open court, or they could get up to the rock shelter cave, which could be likened to the present-day Supreme Court after passing through the level of the shrine. At the open court, oath taking was done just as it is done in courts today. These two standing stones were used. The person who took the oath placed his or her hands on one of the stones, and then goes the oath.
I can do solemnly swear that whatever thing I'm going to say is the truth and nothing but the truth. I shall not add or subtract from what really happened or what I know about this issue. If I lie, may I see it before sunset today.
When an issue is not resolved at the level of the open court, it is taken to the shrine, which was considered a higher court than the open court. Only initiates were allowed into the shrine. Females, even in the present day, do not go close to it. The rock shelter cave was seen as the highest court by the ancient Nok people. The cave also served other purposes. Our guide tells us more.
Here we are at the rock shelter cave. Some people call it the Supreme Court, because at the shrine there and the open court, whenever a case is not settled there, then the elders of the town or the council will move to this place, and whatever decision that has been taken here remains final. Nobody has the authority to change that decision. One function of the rock shelter cave. There is this ceremony that used to start from here. When somebody dies, a prominent member of the community dies, without giving out his will, he is being brought back to life so that he can provide questions. He can provide answers to certain things that he knows. Maybe probably if somebody just dies suddenly or accidentally, the man they will bring him back to life, whereby he will now share his assets to the members of the family, one. Then secondly, if there are messages and warnings that he needs to give to his family or children.
The people of Nok speak the tribe called Ham, otherwise called Jaba. They are spread across different settlements in southern Kaduna. They are also believed to have a common lineage.
For the origin of Ham people, as we were told by our ancestors, because we haven't got it in writing except later from
The history of our people, as we were told by our ancestors, because we never had it in written, was that in the beginning, our forefathers came to this area to look for minerals, such as columbite, tin, and a lot of other minerals, which were found here. It was not by design, but by luck that our people got them.
But they were caught by the neck. You read that chart there. They were caught when they came here. We've been here long time before Islam. And if that is the case, they try to say it's now well over 3,000 years.
Our ancestors had been here long before Islam. That is over 3,000 years ago. However, that became clearer with the discovery of terracotta figures which were subjected to scientific tests that confirmed that we have been here for over 3,000 years. Our ancestors settling first on top of mountains before coming down.
Because the story we have is like a tale that time, since there is no written document to identify, except now the researchers are now telling us this is by this period to this period and so on and so forth.
Terracotta figures which were discovered at Nak were hollow, coil-built, and some merely life-sized human heads and bodies which depicted highly stylized features, abundant jewelries, and varied postures.
The Nok terracottas, like we said, the first one was a little monkey figure that was found. Subsequent findings were of human size. They are largely of human figures, and there are some representation of animals. The important characteristics of the Nok terracottas is that they were products of clay that was fired, and then they are largely in human figures, and then they had stylized hairdo. Look at their hair; it was well made, with some of them having indication of bands around the forehead. Then you have they had triangular eyes. They had triangular nose and triangular shaped mouth. And then in the pupil there were some piercing. Then there is piercing also in the nostril and piercing in the mouth, including the ears. Some suggestions are made that probably those piercing were made either to provide for a pupil for the eyes, and then probably to enable the clay to sustain the heat during firing. And so while they were first found in Nok, the subsequent findings were made in an area that is as wide as the entire central Nigeria, coming from the Jos Plateau up to Kagara in Niger State, then from Zaria, up Zaria, and further down to Katsina Allah in the Benue. Anything within this area, every of the pieces that was found was said to have the same characteristics with the one that was found in Nok. And that was why they were given the generic name Nok terracottas.
Original functions of the piece is not fully known, but analysis sees them as portraying as ancestors, grave makers, and for prevention of crop failure, infertility, and illnesses. The first discoveries of terracotta objects were unearthed at a level of 24 feet in an alluvian tin mine. Nok terracottas were scattered at various depths throughout the Sahel grasslands. Two archaeological sites, namely Samundukia and Taruga, were found containing Nok arts that had remained unmoved. Archaeologist Bernard Fogg had lived in Nok while carrying out archaeological works. His house, built in 1943, is another tourist site in Nok. The compound is still standing, close to what is considered today a forest reserve, with the surroundings still being kept neat. Radiocarbon and thermoluminescence tests narrowed the sculptures aged down to 2,000 and 2,500 years ago, making them some of the oldest in West Africa. The Nok culture is considered to be the earliest sub-Saharan producer of life-size terracotta. Nok sculptures depicted both animals and humans, even though their functions remain unknown due to absence of scientific fieldwork. Ancient iron smelting furnaces are also found at Nok, and the occupation dates before the first iron smelting. The iron implements of the Nok culture people enhanced their farming method, and they cultivated such crops like millets and other grains for their foods on the open grassy land, dotted shrubs and trees here and there. They were the first iron workers known in sub-Saharan Africa. Nok people also practiced hunting. Nok is certainly a tourist attraction.
You can't talk about Nok without talking about iron and terracotta works. So these people, even when the rest of the world we are still in the Stone Age, they have already started using metals, which, has manifested in so many areas of their lives. Their agriculture, they make better weapons. They have graduated from stone to what? Iron. It's just like you today, you are using hoe, and then I'm using tractor. The yields will be what? Will be better. Yes. So they produce sophisticated weapons. When people were still using wood as weapons and stones, these people have graduated from using those traditional stone implements to iron. It makes them better farmers. It makes them better hunters. They are soldiers, it provides them, they have sophisticated equipment more than other people. So it makes security even more important because they have sophisticated equipment.
And conscious of that, the National Commission for Museums and Monuments maintains an outpost in the village to further preserve the national treasures.
The National Museum Nok was established in the year 2003. And it was established and sited here in the village of Nok because the village of Nok was the first finding site of the famous sculptural work referred to as the Nok terracottas. When in 1928, a tiny figure of a monkey was found among the debris of tin mining. An initial information that was made by Bernard Fogg, who came in 1939 to Nigeria, showed that the tiny monkey was a terracotta. And so Bernard Fogg, because he was a trained archaeologist who was in charge of the mining activities from Jos, which covers also the area that includes this southern part of Kaduna, specifically here Nok, he was able to establish the fact that the figure that was found was that of a terracotta. And so because he was a trained archaeologist, he was able to find out and to in fact indicate that probably the terracotta shows the yet existing culture that has not been known to the rest of the world. And that is why the museum was established here in Nok.
Several tourists and scholars have visited Nok, among whom are German researchers Professor Peter Bronick and Dr. Nicole Robb, who have worked at NOC briefly. The NOC culture is a pointer to the creativity of Africans since time immemorial. Surely, NOC is a tourist attraction any day. What can I say? Why don't you visit NOC today and see for yourself that Nigeria is blessed and Africa is indeed blessed.
On NCC Telecom Weekly, we bring you innovations, trends, policies and stakeholders, redefining all sectors of our economy today. Here, you'll see the actors, policymakers and creativity that will shape your mind and business for growth in line with today's reality. Join us every Friday, 5 p.m. on NTA Network and on radio, FRCN Network on Fridays, 8 p.m. NCC Telecom Weekly, connecting Nigeria.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can watch NTA International live on your TV, computer, iPad, tablet and phone. Log on to visiontv.co.uk and click on Entertainment, then NTAI. You can also download the